One.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Senate Committee on Labor and Technology. Today is Wednesday, April 19th at 3:00 p.m. We are in conference room 225. I'm Sharon Moriwaki, the chair of this committee, and we hopefully will have quorum soon. Before proceeding with the hearing, I'd like to make a few housekeeping announcements. The hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. You can find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. In the unlikely event that we encounter major technical difficulties during the hearing and must end it abruptly, we will reconvene. And here's Senator Avella. Thank you for joining us. We will be conducting business Friday, April 21st at 3:00 p.m. in conference room 225 and via video conference. If there are technical glitches during your turn, if we have anybody on Zoom, we will move to the next person, and written testimony is available on the legislature's website. Our time slot is 90 minutes. For the first resolution, it's House Concurrent Resolution 58, requesting the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations to complete a comparative study of its policies on youth employment and federal requirements for youth employment under the Fair Labor Standards Act. The first up is the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations, Mr. Kunzman, in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Moriwaki, members, Bill Kunzman, Deputy Director, Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. You have our written testimony in front of you, and we've also been in communication with some of the proponents of this reso, and we are supportive of some amendments that were proposed and will be available for questions.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, David Miyashiro, Hawai'i Kids Can, in support.
Good afternoon. Aloha, Chair Moriwaki, Vice Chair Lee, and members of the committee. Thank you for hearing HCR 58. Hawai'i Kids Can stands on our written testimony in strong support of this resolution, and we did want to flag the suggested amendments in our written testimony. As someone who proudly works directly with our local schools and employers, I've seen directly how lines have become blurred between K-12 higher education and the workforce. The complex challenges of our current world demand innovative education practices that move beyond an industrial or plantation model. Students deserve and need dynamic experiences that enable them to develop into well-rounded adults with real skills to survive life's challenges and afford to remain in Hawaii. Concepts like career pathways and academies felt hardly talked about when I became a DOE teacher in 2008, but now they are fully mainstreamed. The disruption from tools like AI and ChatGPT are pushing schools to move even faster away from rote memorization and book learning to a focus on learning by doing. This resolution is critically important in that it helps our state more confidently tackle this growing gray area between academics and work. So much has happened in the decades since a formal review of current law has happened. This resolution is not about scaling back protections for students, but rather how can we make sure our processes protect and support students as education and learning become ever more flexible and fluid. So in conclusion, we finally truly believe that HCR 58 will help set up our whole state for success through the many unpredictable changes ahead to education. Thank you.
And you have some amendments?
Correct. Yes, in our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Zizi Zhang. No. In support from CARES, and Trevor Arbazua from the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Trevor Arbazua of Chamber of Commerce Hawaii, and we'll stand on our written testimony in strong support, and just want to echo what David said on Hawai'i Kids Can. The Chamber has partnered with lots of different organizations, including Hawai'i Kids Can, on work-based learning and internships, and including Department of Labor. So we're thrilled about this resolution and thrilled to continue the momentum, and here to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Labor Department, Mr. Kunzman. So, thank you. So this resolution started off as a labor enforcement wage standards sort of bill resolution with Chapter 390. Does that preclude the work-based learning opportunities for students that Mr. Miyashiro is talking about?
It does not. So the existing statute and administrative rules provide for certain things like certificates of employment for learners, for students or those in lower ed. It does provide certain provisions that include things like making sure there's supervisions for certain kinds of work that normally isn't applicable to minors, so they can work in certain industries where they're otherwise not able to work, as long as there are certain things in place, like, you know, they're part of a bona fide academic program, there's supervision, things like that.
Has there been, or how many wage permits have been, or certificates have been issued? Are there many that you folks issued?
For my memory serves me correct, we do something like 11,000 child labor certificates a
Really, that
year.
many? Wow.
Yes. So that's not only includes like your 14, 15, 16, 14 and 15-year-olds, but also like minors in theatrical employment. So every time there's a TV show or a film, they have to come in and get a permit.
So that's different than what Mr. Miyashiro is talking about in terms of the amendments that he's suggesting in terms of apprenticeship programs and internship programs. Those are also, you need to have certificates, or those are because you're in the environment, I guess, of schools and.
No, I
working
believe,
with-
I can ask maybe Shirley to come up from Wage Standards, but I believe they also need certificates of
need-
employment,
okay.
but I don't know if there isn't any other information that might be helpful.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so internship programs, apprenticeship programs, do they also do the interns or apprentices also need to have these certificates, work certificates and age certificates, or is that if it's part of the school, is it wait, or how does that work?
So if it's part of DOE, they're exempt, so they wouldn't have to get a work permit.
Okay, and so in the apprenticeship program as well, they're exempt?
Yes.
So what is the criterion or the basis for which they would be exempt versus having all these permits that they got to get?
The
It's just that they're connected to a school or some kind of
yeah, so
program.
if it's under DOE,
And
then-
apprenticeship programs also.
correct, with the workforce development.
So, so there's two parts of the department that are involved in this. So it's the wage standards in terms of work permits if they're actually doing work. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter whether it's 1 hour or 10 hours, that as long as they're underage, they have to have a work certificate.
So if the child labor laws apply to the non-exempt, there are restrictions for the age group 14-15s. Of course, there's less time restrictions versus 16-17. It's pretty much open. It's just.
And
not
even if they
during
work in the summer, not during the school time.
Yeah, so there are exemptions for summer.
So, and then the other part of your department is the workforce development, where you have a lot of programs that are open to students from high school all the way up to college. Is that correct? You want to come up and just tell us about your program so that we can see how then this resolution can address both those who are in programs and those who are out of programs, that we can do what Hawai'i Kids Can is talking about, and the chambers, how do you have a glide path all the way through for high school kids and post-high school? Is that like?
Okay. Hi, Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Maricar Pilatin Freitas with the Workforce Development Division. So our agency oversees we're the state apprenticeship agency. So what that means is if they are part of an apprenticeship program, then of course they have to follow the standards of apprenticeship for all those programs that were approved by the State Apprenticeship Council and the Director of Labor. So in terms of your other question for the youth, we do have the youth program that's funded by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So those programs are contracted with each of the local areas on the county of Hawaii, county of Maui, and city and county of Honolulu. So they administer and operate those programs based on the federal guidelines. So there's eligibility criteria that the youth have to meet. And of course, part of those activities that's funded under those federal grants include work-based learning. So that we defer to the counties and their providers to operate those programs. And we hope that those operators in all the local areas comply with the child labor laws.
Great. Do you have any questions? So you've seen the amendments that have been suggested in terms of not only looking at an inventory or a study of the wage standards laws, but also policies that could provide information on all of these opportunities for students. And you've seen that and how the amendments are coming in to look at those policies, and you folks are okay with that and being able to give us a report next session. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wait. Senator Keith Agarwal is here. Would you have any questions?
No.
Okay, and this is our third member. We have quorum. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to our second resolution for the day, House Concurrent Resolution 61. House Draft 1 is requesting the Hawaii Labor Relations Board to establish objective standards and criteria for splitting off a group of state workers into new bargaining units. We have in person Gigi Zhang, comments, individual. We also have written comments from Kalani Werner, UPW in support, and we also have late testimony from Hawaii Labor Relations Board, Marcus Oshiro, the chairperson, who says that they are willing to do the study, but they have limited staff. But they would like another year, but resolutions only can go for 1 year, but we will ask them to do it in 1 year. And hopefully they can come back with at least an interim report and see where we are. Are you here to testify?
Sure, I didn't register. Would it be okay?
Sure, come, yeah.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Everett Kaneshige. I am the statewide interoperability coordinator with the Office of Homeland Security and the Department of Defense. I am not here this afternoon representing my department and my office. The purpose for appearing before the committee today is just to provide you with a little bit of resource information. As you may be aware, this resolution came over from the House, specifically from Chair Matayoshi, who had concerns about establishing standards to determine what it would be to have a separate bargaining unit for public employees. One of the drivers for that, as you might be aware, is that the 911 telecommunicators were asking for treatment in that fashion to create a separate bargaining unit. My office and some other folks are working with the 911 board and with the various telecommunicators. The first purpose, quite frankly, is to get them recognized as first responders. And there was a resolution to that effect 2 years ago. This resolution and this effort to create them as a separate bargaining unit is just another path to get them into that position. Was supported by HGA as well, and we felt that this was something that frankly would be good for the public safety community. To the extent there was a bill that would actually spin them off, and it did cross over, but it's in abeyance at the moment, and we're hoping that this resolution will be something that will be helpful in order to, when the bill comes up again in the second year of the biennium. The other thing I wanted to mention.
You are you're speaking in support of.
I'm
the
sorry,
resolution.
I'm speaking in support of the resolution. Thank you. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, Chair, was that I did watch some of the confirmation hearings that you had for some of the new board members for the 911 board. They were new board members and you and the committee had questions, frankly, just about 911 in general. And one of the things that I'm assisting the board with is putting together an informational briefing for the ledge that talks about 911 and the roles of the telecommunicators. So that's something that we just haven't had the opportunity to actually bring it before the legislature. And we're hoping that's something we can approach both chambers with after the sessions are over.
That sounds very good.
Okay, so that's all I have. Any questions from yourself?
So you're okay with at least doing a study on what the criteria might be and establishing a bargaining?
Yes, we are, Chair. We actually did some research on our own, and we kind of know, we think, what the standards are. This is not an isolated issue. It's something that is going on nationally. So that is part of the reason that we felt it was appropriated for those folks to do that. But there really isn't anything in the law. There isn't anything before the ledge. So we understand that there would be this need to pause and get more information out there before the ledge acts.
Maybe there's more work in the interim that can be done so that we can identify what the criteria are. So, because a number of people are different classes of workers would like to have separate bargaining. So what does that entail and what is the criteria? for doing that?
And to be truthful about it, we weren't aware, our group was not aware that there were these multiple groups that were coming before the ledge this year to ask for similar treatment. And, maybe during the interim, we can get together and basically make a better, presentation, with the standards, and it doesn't look so like piecemeal. Right?
And I think in terms of what we've received from the chair of the Hawaii Labor Relations Board, since they are overseeing Chapter 89 and look at all of these issues, that might be a good place to start in terms of even a briefing on Chapter 89 and bargaining.
So, Chair, we'd be happy to, present to them and provide them any assistance as they prepare the report as well.
Yeah.
Oh, all members are here. Questions?
Yeah, I have a
Mr.
question.
Kaneshiro? Oh,
So the
Senator
bill
Bell.
for the bargaining unit for UPW, that was requested by my community members. And they plead the case when it came before us, and that's the reason why it made it to the House. And I'm not sure what happened on the understanding on the bargaining agreement. Not everybody is aware sometimes of how the complex reasons why they wanted their own bargaining unit, because UPW and some of the other unions, HGA, at one time, they're so big. HGA used to overlook lifeguards. At one time, the lifeguards wanted to be their own local autonomy because they're not in the same field as most of the HCA union members. So that's the reason why I understand the whole complexity, and that's the reason why I had help with them drafting up the bill. And I'm just glad that you're open and working on the interim, because I think you're gonna have a lot more coming up next session on different unions wanting to have their own, well, not just unions, but workers wanting to have their own bargaining agreement, because they're not feeling that they're not being heard. And that's one of the main reasons why they want to do that. And when they have grievance or have issues within the union, it's not being heard, especially in public safety right now. I know they have a problem with the director and some of the old staff that was there since when they had problems with Nolan and Spenda. Not problems with, excuse me, let me use the word. They didn't have a problem with Nolan and Spenda. They had problems with the people that was under Nolan and Spenda. So that's the reason why they was having a hard time. When they still have the same people there, but you cannot do anything when the bargaining unit are so big to try to pinpoint them for those members that are having the issues in their department. But Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Senator, I just wanted to say the lifeguards, the EMTs, in the bill that you were mentioning, the 911 telecommunicators, they all work very, very closely together. So that's why I said, I think now that we know everybody is out there working like this in between the sessions, maybe that's something we can coordinate a little better.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Chair.
Thank you. We're going to take a short recess for just a decision. We'll come back for decision making. So we are back from this to reconvene the 3:00 p.m. hearing on labor and technology for decision making. I just want to say that we have a full court here. We have Senator Keith Agaran and also Senator Ihara joining us. HCR 58 requesting the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations to complete a comparative study of the policies on youth employment. We're going to add in the Hawaii Kids Can amendment that the department has agreed to expand it to also include the amendments to examine policies to broaden the work-based learning opportunities for students. And the language there is to have a report back also on the, not only the work enforcement standards, but also the partners for streamlining access to work learning opportunities and advantages for students in the labor market. So with that, members, any questions, comments? If not, the chair votes for the amendments as attached to your the information that you have, and the chair votes aye.
I'll be taking a vote for the committee. We're voting on HCR 58 to pass with amendments. HCR 58 pass with amendments. Chair Mariwaki.
Aye.
Senator Lee is excused. Senator Ihara is aye. Senator Keith Agaran.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And for HCR 61, House Draft 1, requesting the Hawaii Labor Relations Board to establish objective standards and criteria for new bargaining units. The chair's recommendation is to pass as is. I believe that the Labor Relations Board said it needs another year, but we will pass it and see that whatever they have in their interim, that we can see a report back and we can see where we are next session. So with that, the chair's recommendation is to pass as is.
With 4 members present, we're voting on the chair's recommendation to pass HCR 61 unamended. Any reservations or objections? Otherwise, I'll cast a aye vote for the 4 members present.
Thank you. With that, the meeting or the hearing is adjourned. Thank you all.